Greetings, everyone. My name is James Grace. I'm a Cloudinary Technical Customer Success Manager located right here in New York City. And for over 17 years, I've traveled the globe introducing thousands of people to Apple, Macintosh, Microsoft Windows, and Linux-based digital asset management technologies and workflows. With us today, we also have two very important staff members from one of our amazing customers, Custom Ink. And I'll let them go ahead and introduce themselves.
Hey everybody, I am Andrew Albosta. I am a multimedia production associate at Custom Ink. I've actually been at Custom Ink for 18 years, which I think is kind of unheard of these days, but I've been in a lot of roles and seen many sides of the business. But right now I'm on the creative team, which is part of marketing. And one of the main things that I do is manage our Clattonary installation and train new users and upload files and tag them and just general management of it.
Sam?
Muted Sam.
Oh, geez, sorry. My name's Sam Worthington. I know everyone's done it, right? It's probably not going to be the last time I do it today either. I've been with Custom Ink now for about 8 years. And I run the team that makes all of the stuff that actually ends up in the Cloudinary. We make everything from video, photography, and animatics. And most of the time, it's Andrew that is then putting it up in the Custom Ink. I'm sorry, Cloudinary.
All right. So,
and just a heads up, we do have our contact info on the last slide. So you can take a screenshot or a photo of it if you need to ask us any questions that we don't eventually get to. But yeah, here we go.
and also Andrew and Sam were both supposed to be here in person. However, they contracted COVID over the weekend. So
It was Andrew. It was.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I gave it to Sam. We had a photo shoot last week for 3 days, and I'm pretty sure I gave it to him. But I'm feeling better, so it at least was quick. But it felt better to not make the trip to New York. So,
all right. Andrew and Sam are going to be detailing their Cloudinary journey that started back in March 2021 with a primary focus on gaining organizational adoption of Cloudinary's digital asset management system at Custom Ink. Also, like we mentioned, note we don't have a ton of time together. Therefore, this presentation is going to be fairly light touch, but we will save some time near the end of the session for audience questions. So if you do have questions, just save them for the end. Be plenty of time for that. We're going to talk a little bit about introductions here, which we've already done. We're going to give a Custom Ink corporate overview, why they chose Cloudinary, and their Cloudinary instance specifics. So let's take it away.
So if you haven't heard of Custom Ink before, which at this point, I hope you have, but we're the leading provider of custom apparel and accessories for groups, teams, and occasions. And for a long time, we've believed that T-shirts and other custom products have the power to bring people together and really strengthen their community. And that community could be very literal, you know, your softball team, your family, you know, family reunions, but it could be things that you not necessarily think of as communities like your work community or a professional community even. We have over 2,000 employees now. We have 4 hub locations, which include some production facilities and our headquarters located outside of Washington, D.C. We have 39 retail locations. We have international offices for software development, and then also some order operations functions. And then we have 2 subsidiaries that handle swag management and fulfillment. And our most recent, one of those acquisitions, we were reporting about $500 million in annual sales. So we've been around for 20 years, over 22 years actually. And yeah, we've been around kind of a while and really grown over time. You know, we get a little sampling of some of those communities and the types of products and everything that we offer. On this map, we actually show some locations that we don't necessarily have like a store or like a physical presence, but we do have team members sort of in these teal states to offer local support. So if you live in one of these other states, you can still get in touch with somebody at Custom Ink and talk to sort of a local contact there to get to know what your needs are. Anything else to add, Sam? I think I covered it.
Yep. No, I think that's pretty much it. I think one of the things that you touched on is that we've been around for 22 years and such. We've grown a lot in 22 years, and that sure is a lot of assets. I mean, I can't tell you how many millions and millions of photographs we've actually taken over those 22 years. So being able to keep track of them and get them to the right people at the right time is essential.
So thinking of why we wound up on Clattonary. So as James mentioned, we've been using it for about 1.5 years now. Our previous DAM that we moved to was an on-prem solution, actually an Amazon cloud kind of provider, but we managed that. And truth be told, it was really difficult for us to find time from our operations technology teams to help us manage that system. We were constantly behind on upgrades. Because of that, it was pretty buggy. I got to the point where I didn't feel right submitting help desk tickets because I knew the answer would be just upgrade the system, but we couldn't get there. So we really needed to move beyond that on-prem solution to a SaaS provider, which obviously Cloudinary could help with that. A lot of the other features that Cloudinary had, including like their content delivery network, the ability to do transformations and have easy sharing, those were also really big selling points for us. And while we're not really using them just yet, some of the AI functions that Clattonary has, we are definitely thinking of ways that we can start including them into our workflows, things like auto tagging of assets, or just sort of doing delivery at scale and making new assets using some of those transformation tools. Those are some of the main things that we are really hopeful to get out of Clattonary as we continue to get better adoption within our company.
And another thing to add here is because, as Andrew pointed out, what we moved from was an on-prem DAM, which we ran, and at the time that we'd signed on with that, it seemed like it made a lot of sense. But making the business case for Cloudinary was so much easier than I thought it would be, because our tech teams did not have the time to be dealing with our DAM problems. So moving to SaaS it was just a great choice. No more DAM problems.
So the kind of stuff that we put on there right now, one of the big things that we do is product, just anything marketing centric is a lot of the files that we have on there right now. Lifestyle photography, knolling product images, kind of nicely arranged on a grid. Anything that gets used in like email headers or in the body of emails, landing pages, all that kind of stuff is good. A good candidate for us to include in the DAM portion of Cloudinary. We also have a lot of assets on there, which we call key message. It's really related to our process and the people that make our custom shirt or apparel or gear orders. So we'll visit our production facilities and capture those, people who are, taking the care and craft and making sure the products look really good before they go out the door to the customer. We have also started to include finished video files into Cloudinary. And then those are getting incorporated into at least a handful of landing pages. We're still very early on into including this stuff, but we think that using Cloudinary gives us a much better experience for our users than just like embedding a YouTube video, for instance, where I have the ability to put a branded player on there. You won't get suggested videos playing when your video is done, like random cat videos or something like that, or just moving on to some random other video, auto playing the next one. So that's kind of the main stuff that we have on there. One thing that is a little bit kind of interesting, I think that as we were talking about this internally, is we actually use the DAM slightly differently than I think many companies do. We do have a mix of both finished and unfinished assets in the system. And that's partly because of how unique Custom Ink is, allowing customers to customize gear. We will often take product photography of blank product, but our end use is always decorated product. So sometimes we will, have lifestyle shoot, and we generally shoot that decorated, just because it'd be very difficult to do all that work in post. But for blank product photography, oftentimes we'll put images with a little teeny bit of production on the system that gives our designers the flexibility to change it up for whatever segment that they are speaking to at that time. So if, today it is talking to a business, tomorrow we might be talking to, a family reunion. We want to have those assets ready for our team to, change those designs around. And it's actually really good because Clattonary does a much better job at previewing like Photoshop files than Google Drive, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But we can get better previews. It's faster for us to search and scroll through images and see what's there. And at some point in the future, we'll definitely going to be working with our designers to either replace assets in the system, if they have added a design to it, but also have the ability to sort of make a duplicate of a file so that we have multiple copies of one asset. One that's blank, one that has a business design, one that has a team design, et cetera, so that we can just save that work in the future and not duplicate work.
And to that point, it's all about the time and the efficiency, the amount of time that our designers have saved, or even some of the people on my team have saved, just because being able to save all of these different file types all in one place and preview them, it's been great.
That's it for that section.
All right. So next section is going to be talking about DAM workflow and media flows. Media flows, just for your information, are basically business process automations that you can create within like a web-based flow charting applications. Kind of cool. We're going to talk a little bit about folder structure and structured metadata, and they're also going to talk about a couple of different unique media flows that they created for some workflow automations. One of them is a star rating and structured metadata, and the other one is embedded keywords. So, all right, go ahead.
So I kind of alluded to it a second ago, but we, Cloudinary is just one of the tools that we have for us to do creative work. Our organization relies heavily on Google Drive and Gmail and things of that nature. So most of our working projects are actually inside of Google Drive. So that gives us the desktop sync share features, collaboration, access control, all those things. So everything good, James?
Yep. Sorry. Go ahead.
That's fine. So we want to make things as easy to use both with Cloudinary and with what we have inside of Drive. So oftentimes, we mimic folder structures that we use across the company. So using the same file names, folder convention, if somebody finds something in Drive, they should know what to search for inside of Cloudinary as far as like a file name or a folder path to make that discoverable. I mentioned before that we sometimes put finished assets, sometimes we put unfinished assets. There will always be a PSD of a file floating around somewhere. So even if we don't put that onto the Cloudinary system, by using that path that it lives in Cloudinary, they should have a pretty good idea of where to find that inside of Drive if they need to find, either other assets that were taken at the same photo shoot that we didn't put on the DAM, or a working file of it. So we just want to make sure that things are mimicked in the most similar fashion in both places. And typically we are going to put like a final design inside of Cloudinary or photograph. And then, like I said, we'll also put working PSDs in many instances if it would be valuable to keep that PSD in there. When it comes to helping to search, so obviously the folder that it exists in the file name gives a lot of information about how, when the asset was created, what is the content of that. But we do heavy usage of structured metadata inside of Clattonary. And one thing that sort of want you to think about if you're setting up a system and spinning it from scratch, or what does your business do to describe your own customers or products? You probably already have business teams that do order analysis, or you have product SKUs, things of that nature. Can you use that information that your business already talks about and already has the kind of a shared vocabulary about? Can you use that to help drive some of the metadata that gets associated with your assets? The Custom Ink product catalog has thousands and thousands of products in it. when I was spinning up the system, we asked the reporting team to say, tell me every product name that is active on the website. And then that got loaded into Clattonary as a structured dictionary of terms that went into the product style field that we created. And by having that list of product names, it ensures consistency. It eliminates like spelling mistakes. You know, on screen right now, we talk about sport tech. You know, I could never accidentally tag something like sport tech without the dash or spelling it a different way because we're forcing the only metadata to be one of those dictionary values. It also makes things easier for the, you know, whoever's doing the tagging to enter. There's an extensive look ahead and suggested type for doing tagging. So when I start typing sport tech, I can just kind of very quickly filter out anything that's not sport tech and then I can quickly pick the correct one. So it really makes it a lot easier by having good fields to store information and then those dictionaries to help drive what terms go in there. And this is just a quick example of what it looks like in our backend system. You know, we have this general contractor photo shoot that we did and just all of the products that are in there. This is also very helpful in the future if we use that photograph in marketing, and we'll often get customers saying, hey, I really love that product. What is it? By having this information stored with the asset, it makes it very easy for us to tell you know, a sales rep or somebody like exactly what products were in that image. And it helps us track stuff down in the future. So yeah, it definitely makes things a lot easier.
Andrew, would you say too that if you go back to this, it also helps not shoving everything into just tags, but having this relationship between the values and how they relate to the asset with structured metadata? Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's and especially maybe we do it a little bit less when it comes to things like searching for product style. But we use asset type as a field. That's really important for us. I kind of mentioned earlier that we have you know, assets called key message, again, that talk about our people and the processes that we do. So we will often have someone saying like, hey, I'm looking for you know, photograph like showing our production teams. And I know that I can tell them, go into the asset type field and search for key message. And as soon as they do that, they'll see all the assets that have that as a tag, and it really helps narrow things down to what they should be searching for. This image here is what we call a belonging image. It's an image that shows like kind of how t-shirts can bring people together and make them feel like part of that group. You know, belonging images are really like the bread and butter of a lot of our marketing, you know, at least that has, you know, people in it for lifestyle. So just being able to search for belonging inside the asset type, it very quickly narrows down what the best assets are going to be. We also, you know, have other fields like, you know, the product color and, you know, product categories and things like that. So we have sort of both very pinpointed specific information like product style shown here, or broader metadata that might include like just the general segment that this photograph portrays, or, you know, like, is it blue? Is it green? Is it red? Like not getting into the nitty gritty of, you know, the specific product color name, you know, that the manufacturer may call it. Moving on to the media flows. So this is a beta feature, I think, still for Cloudinary, but when I heard about it several months ago, it really piqued my interest. And we did need to reach out, got a little bit of help from our product team there. But we use this right now as a way of getting metadata that we enter inside of programs like Lightroom or Bridge, and getting that to be inside of Cloudinary in a way that Cloudinary can kind of interact with and more easily search on and edit. So we have set up this media flow so that if we do any kind of star ratings inside of Lightroom as we're doing our photo review, or if we add any keywords inside of those programs, once we do get around to ingesting that into Cloudinary, those two specific fields inside of Lightroom will get translated over to fields in the structured metadata world for Cloudinary. It saves a lot of time. A lot of our designers are familiar with using Bridge or Lightroom to do metadata entry. So if they spend any time doing that sort of work ahead of time, even our photographer, when he's in the photo studio with product photography, he'll put in the keywords, the product itself. So then I don't necessarily have to ask him later on, what was that, photo, or what was the product that was in that shoot? I can already look into the keyword metadata and see that it's there. And then I can help translate that. It becomes a tag, but I can very easily then move it or re-enter it into the product style field. And it's very, very helpful for that. So this has definitely saved us a lot of time. And, if it's something you want help with, I'm sure Clattonary will be happy to help implement it.
Besides just the time, it also just the error rates have gone down quite a bit. I mean, just because it's done right here when we're shooting the stuff, it goes right into Cloudinary directly.
Nice. Okay, we're going to talk about the next section now, which is sharing and distribution. A little bit about collections. Collection is just for everybody's information. They're a way for you to cherry pick or select items that you want to share with a larger audience. It could be a larger audience internally for folks that may not actually have accounts within the Cloudinary system, or it may even be items that you want to share with vendors or outside salespeople, or even possibly large customers as well. Right? Also, brand portal. Brand portal is a way for you to just have a single place where folks can go to look at lots of different collections. Also sharing internally, so social media team as well to other companies and collaborators, and also user roles and permissions.
So this is a screenshot from my collections page, and you can see that in the relatively short time that we've been using Cloudinary, we've made good use of this feature. Our previous DAM, I think, called them light boxes, but I think it's a very, very easy way to create like collections of assets that you either really like, maybe you want to hang on to it like you're brainstorming a project, or we will use it for sharing assets externally, like James kind of mentioned. In the recent situation, Custom Ink was ranked number 82 on a Newsweek most loved workplaces list. And we had a request coming through our team development team to get photo assets to the photo editors at Newsweek for inclusion on their web pages for this. So we went into the system, we looked up those key message type photographs because they show our team, and we made a quick collection. And because the way that we have stuff set up in Clattonary essentially makes the images public, as soon as we made a collection for that, we could share a single link with those photo editors, and they were taken to a nice little web page where they see all those images laid out, able to download the ones that they thought were appropriate for the article, and then incorporate them into the landing page that they had made. So it updates live. So if we take images, add them or remove them, then whatever is in there at the time that the external party looks at it, like they'll see it. We don't have to be sending massive zip files around, through email. It's definitely been very convenient to share these kinds of things. And it's also like not very technical. Like people know how to click a link and look at a bunch of images on a web page, and they can usually figure out how to, click on the asset and download it. So it's been able to free up time for us, like how to manage those files and just share them, get feedback on it, and allow people to download original high-res photography if that's what they need.
And this ability to do these collections is one of my favorite things. And just a real short story. The first time I used it, our VP of finance was looking for some specific imagery for a deck he was putting together for the board. And I quickly put together a collections page with 7 or 8 different images. And I'm like, try one of these, Mike. And, I didn't hear anything for a while, but the next day he was like, that was the easiest thing I've ever done. When you made the business case for this, that was one thing, but I actually got to see it work. That was awesome. And he's, VP of finance, so he was not the technical guy, but it all worked beautifully. It was great. Being able to share things that easily is just really nice.
The next feature that we've been using a lot, and we're still kind of in the infancy in getting user buy-in for certain parts of the system, but are using user groups to help with things like hiding folders and then also permissions. So as we were doing our setup of the system, like I had to have a big folder of assets with just test metadata in it, and that's where I was kind of working out applying those tags to different fields and everything like that. And I don't need to sort of burden the other users of our system with these test assets. So by having them in a folder that essentially nobody is shared with, I still have access to those, but then they're not going to start turning up in search results, for other users. We're not going to get duplicative results because I may have the same asset multiple times in this folder as I'm sort of experimenting with different things. So a nice feature of Clattonary has been able to, handle what folders people can see when they log into that system. So, hide it for anyone but you is definitely helpful. We also, have two user groups right now. We have our power users and general users. Power users are basically anybody on the creative team. So we kind of trust them that, any designs that they work on, might be experimental. They're probably going to go through a review process, either with our VP of creative or the brand team. Somebody's going to see something that they use, so we can be a little more permissive with them about what they have access to. We also have our general users, which could be folks on the team development team or finance or our store managers. Those might get lumped into that group, and they might have more restrictive permissions. And at some point, like I said, hopefully our designers will be able to do things like upload into the system or do tagging, so that if they make new assets, they can upload them in the appropriate location, give them some good descriptive keywords, and that'll help them in the future. But I don't necessarily want other users in the system to be uploading random files to the system. So by using different permissions and user groups, we can really help control what they can either edit, can they move things, which the way Clattonary is set up, moving things is usually a bad thing. So restrict that kind of thing. Can they simply view it and call it a day? So we've definitely been using this as a way of making sure that nobody is getting access to the stuff they shouldn't, or being able to change things that they shouldn't. The other thing, and this might be a little bit unique to our account, but we do have several sub accounts available to us, and maybe you do as well. So right now we have our marketing main account, like our production account, but then we do have a staging account where I can sort of experiment and not have to worry about messing anything up, because we're not linking to any of those assets on a landing page. And then as we've been using Cloudinary more in the company, other teams are starting to realize like this might be helpful for them. We have a separate team that handles all of the artwork that goes into our design lab, where customers can create their custom products. And they have been experimenting with it at least a little bit to see if that can help replace a legacy system that we've developed in-house. And like some of the features, those AI features that Cloudinary has, like auto tagging and stuff, were really interesting to them. But I was able to make a completely separate test cloud that I can give them much broader access to that test account without worrying again that they're going to access marketing assets that they shouldn't be, or potentially moving something around or breaking something in our production system. So using that sub account can really also be pretty helpful.
All right. Next section, we're going to talk about video streaming, CDN, content distribution networks, and SEO, which is search engine optimization. So product videos via Cloudinary's video player, right? So Cloudinary has capabilities both with progressive and also the newer adaptive HLS Impact Dash video streaming. We're also talking about leveraging Cloudinary's CDN, right? So AD talked about that in the keynote earlier. So this idea of, this global network of CDN locations that provide the content closest to the visitors. So they're going to get the best and the fastest sort of experience without folks having to sort of do anything there. Also, search engine optimization. This is going to be a non-technical brief, but really the idea there is that once you have a URL, you can just simply send that off to marketing or creative, and they can add a little, using web-friendly characters, they can add whatever sort of descriptive tag they want and use that to sort of track things. Yeah. All right.
So using Clattonary as a CDN, the first tests that we've done with that have actually been with video. That's kind of a big, heavy subject, getting video onto web pages, and it's a heavy, in terms of bandwidth, and when you even get into, looking at the search rankings and stuff, if your page is really heavy, that could actually have a negative impact on things. So being able to, we know that we want video, we shoot video, we know what's important, and it's been important for a while, but getting that onto web pages in a way that is just helpful in terms of being kind of good, rich content for a web page, but not hurting the page by having a heavy page weight or something like that, has been really important for us. So the first couple of tests that we did with Cloudinary as a CDN were just video. And as I said toward the beginning, using YouTube as a video player on a web page, like everybody does it, and it's very easy, and it's very easy to embed that. But it's not yours. It doesn't have your branding. It's very clearly YouTube. It does all those autoplay things and has suggested videos and stuff. And that, I think, just serves to potentially take people away from your own website. So we were really excited to do a couple tests with this. And over time, we've done more and more videos hosted using Cloudinary on our webpage. But some of the things that we've been really happy with, it does seem to be pretty lightweight. It does scale for whatever device you're using, or whether or not it's a landline internet versus cellular on a phone. Everything that we've seen so far seems to really point to that this has been a pretty good solution. It also does have the capability of uploading things like transcripts or SRT files, things of that nature. So if you're looking either for just having better accessibility just by being able to turn closed captioning on, or the potential for Google to scrape what that text is and having that become part of the the page and the content that's on that page, we think it's important to put that for both of those reasons, and Cloudinary supports that. So we've been pretty happy with it so far, and using Cloudinary to host those videos.
And really, I know we kind of make a joke about the cat videos, but at the same time, it's a big question for us in marketing. If somebody actually does watch the About Us video on our homepage, and then all of a sudden they do see something like, oh gosh, that's that mountain bike that I was just talking about, and we just lost a customer to that. And YouTube is kind of famous for that, for anyone that's ever seen it. So this has been a real big win, I think, for us, and our brand team feels that way too.
And that was actually the only slide we had for this whole section. So, so that's kind of it. But I think we got plenty of time for questions.
Awesome. All right, excellent. All right, thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Sam.
You're welcome.
All right.
Yeah.
Any questions? Yep.
How are you handling archiving when an image is past its life cycle?
Did you hear that, Andrew? The question was, how are you guys handling archiving once a product's reached the end of its life cycle?
Ooh, that's a good question.
He said sorry.
No, I'm trying to think. I think that is a deficiency that we kind of have right now, in terms of knowing when products are no longer available to customers. Over time, we've kind of tried to be, get more permissive with our model releases and things like that, trying to make sure we can use those in perpetuity wherever possible. So we're trying to, get away from, situations where that's like an issue. We sometimes struggle with the distinction between we are showing a photograph of this specific product versus we are showing the idea of a custom polo. And it doesn't really matter that it's like that particular Nike polo, but just could be indicative of that. So sometimes we actually struggle a little bit internally of like, when can we keep using an asset that features a product that's no longer available? And again, is it a photo of that product, or is it a photo just of a broad segment or type of product? And we haven't really cracked that yet. So sometimes we leave them up for a while and hope that there's no problems, or someone says, I need that one.
One more, go ahead, yeah.
So how are you tracking rights and usage? Is that in Cloudinary, or do you have like a rights management tool?
So tracking rights, oh, can you hear? Okay.
I did hear that one. It's more like kind of spreadsheet based at the moment. I know that we need to improve that process and handle things like, getting stuff off of that system, or doing it in a more automated way. It hasn't been that much of an issue for us lately. And again, a lot of the newer shoots that we have, we try to engineer it so that it's not a problem. And we don't have to think about it going forward. But in the past, older DAM systems, like, yes, we definitely had times where it's like, oh, that's still available. We need to like go and spend a bunch of time searching through our systems to find that asset. Or if a designer finds an asset like on a Google Drive folder from ages ago, it's like, oh, I love this image, I'm going to use it. It's like, no, we deleted that from the DAM. So that whole like single source of truth thing that gets thrown around a lot in DAM conferences. We've definitely been bitten by it a couple times. Fortunately, it's never been so bad that we couldn't recover from it, but it is definitely something we've not really solved just yet.
And one of the reasons is breaking bad habits as well. I think a lot of our designers will actually have a folder locally on their machine of photos that they really like to use, and every once in a while it'll be a product we don't sell anymore, or a person we're not supposed to show because of an expired model release. That's always, I feel like that's always going to be like a big problem until we retrain those designers. But if we could really just get them to use the DAM more, then that would just be a lot easier. And of course, to Andrew's point, really just using all models in perpetuity, then that's not even a problem. I know it's not an option for everybody, but it's really helped.
So one of the challenges that commonly comes up in setting up a DAM with a metadata structure like you have is scope creep, where how do you determine at what point you're going to decide whether a piece of metadata is going to make it in versus ignore it or save it for another day?
I think when we started using Clattonary and we did transition over, that actually gave us a good opportunity to clean up some of that stuff. We had a lot more fields in our old DAM. And I think we just kind of discovered that people just weren't searching for it. Maybe I would search for it because I knew it was there. But that a lot of our users they didn't know about it. They didn't care about it. So we did take an opportunity at that point to basically stop using that. And we didn't migrate that over when we switched providers. I've been asking our team a lot, as you search for something, if you can't find it, when you eventually do, let me know and tell me what you started searching for and then what you ultimately search for. Because then that also gets me thinking, like, how are people looking for these assets? What are they calling it that might not necessarily align with what my expectation of what that was? So, I think it's evolved over time, and we've tried to simplify things, try not to be as maybe nitty gritty about certain stuff, just because it might not actually be that helpful to track that thing. But I think that certain things we know are still important. Again, product style is a really big thing for us, and knowing what a product is. or that asset type. That's one of the first things that I tell people to search for like a broad category of asset, and that helps them find the right way. So yeah, it has been like a learning process, I think. And sometimes we make the wrong choice, and then eventually we just need to realize like this isn't being helpful. We should probably stop taking the time to store that particular piece of metadata in a field.
Any other questions?
Andrew, you mentioned earlier on that you were forward thinking the way you want to take Clattonary, that you want to incorporate, I guess, more AI or like, automated or like, object detection perhaps inside the Cloudinary DAM. I guess, could you share a little bit more info, like, I guess, where you want to take, I guess, the Cloudinary DAM in the future, like maybe like some future ideas or future, like future improvements?
I think so. Certain things, I mentioned that we had our product design, or the designers who make the art that goes in the design lab. We're looking into Clattonary. I think for certain teams like that they could make really good use of some of those tools inside of Clattonary, because I think that they're a little more customer focused. So those AI tools, Amazon recognition or Google's product for, auto tagging might align a little better with what like consumers out in the world, how they categorize an asset. When I did some tests of it for a lot of our lifestyle products, like, yeah, I could see how the algorithm was tagging it a certain way, but then I also knew that like none of our like designers would have ever searched for that asset using that particular word. So, so I think for certain applications, it might be helpful if we expand Clattonary for our team. I think one of the things that we're kind of looking into or just have an idea about is, can Clattonary help us, combine assets together? Could we take a photograph with a piece of copy? Clattonary can overlay copy on an image. And, could we very quickly, using a spreadsheet to make 1,000 URLs, here's 50 images that we want to try. Here's a bunch of different pieces of text that we want to overlay on it. And can we use Clattonary at some point as a means of helping, discover what's working and what's a good combination of those things. And that would take a long time for a designer to do, but if Clattonary can kind of help knock them out and we can figure out ways to track performance, that might be a good way of, using some of those tools at scale.
Very cool. Thank you. Thanks for that.
Mhm.
Tune in for the creative automation session then.
I wish. I don't think they're live streaming anything, so we're kind of missing out on this one.
All right. Any other questions? We're good to go? All right. This was an excellent presentation. Thank you so much for your time and effort, Andrew and Sam.
You're welcome. Sorry we couldn't be there.
Yeah, that's okay. Hope you guys are feeling better soon.
Oh yeah, we're getting there.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.